This exchange centers on a sharp critique from Congressman Keating of Massachusetts during a defense hearing, where he directly challenged the administration's policy framework and highlighted concerns across three major areas: warrior ethos, border security agreements, and deterrence abroad. His remarks reflect a broader debate over military readiness, accountability, and the direction of U.S. foreign policy. If you find this kind of breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe for more coverage and analysis.
I'm going to take my time to react to the testimony already given, the three pillars that each of the witnesses and the Secretary highlighted. Pillar number one, restore the warrior ethos. You know, I've had the privilege in this committee to see firsthand a special window of our troops, their courage, their tenacity, their commitment. You don't have to restore the warrior ethos, sir. It's already there. We've never lost it. Pillar two, I just want to highlight something that is a concern. Pillar two is the border security issue. And among that, I'm really worried about the agreement with El Salvador that exists. I think it's very cloudy. We don't know exactly what they're getting in return for their commitment to house the hellhole prisons, in the hellhole prisons they have, people that are shipped there, transported there illegally. But there's problems with that. It violates the Constitution, number one. It violates the First Step Act that President Trump paraded around and took so much credit for in his first term, he and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. It violates the Leahy Law, which prohibits federal money to be used for prisons of that type. It violates the Foreign Assistance and Transparency and Accountability Act that our Secretary of State was a proud sponsor of, that demands taxpayer accountability for monies, because all we know is the White House has said they've given El Salvador, given their strongman, Bukele, $6 million. But then they're holding another $15 million in international narcotics and control and law enforcement to the side for prospective use here. And of concern, too, is we're now transferring helicopters, military assets, to Bukele. We're giving him helicopters. And I'm concerned about that. Supposedly it's there for humanitarian reasons. It's being taken away from the Drug Control Task Force dealing with the fentanyl issue. And now it's there for humanitarian reasons in Bukele's control. And I'm just worried about going down the road here. I think there should be strict oversight of what they're getting from the U.S. If that's not there, and there's dark money and dark assets being passed, we could have the makings of another Iran-Contra. Thirdly, the third pillar, deterrence. And I look to what every expert militarily, from a security standpoint, said is the greatest deterrent that we have with China and Russia, and our greatest weakness if we lose it. And that's the war in Ukraine. If we fail to support Ukraine, and Ukraine loses, that's a green light for China. That's just not my opinion. That's virtually every security expert. We have something China and Russia don't have. We have a coalition of 50 countries, 50, dealing together. They don't have anything near that. Yet, you've attacked that alliance. You said they're pathetic. You called them freeloaders. They have paid, and we want more money, and they're giving more money for their own defense. But they've given $199 billion towards Ukraine, more than the U.S., by the way. And they're not freeloaders when they came to our assistance at 9/11. They suffered thousands of casualties, several hundred deaths. They're young men and women, sacrificed to defend Article 5, the only time it was exercised for the United States. They're not freeloaders. They're dealing with that. And yet today, you attacked one of them saying that now you've confirmed that the U.S. has plans in place to invade the territory of a founding member of NATO, Denmark. That's not being strong. That's not being strong. It's also chaotic. This is the chaos cabinet when it comes to Ukraine. Secretary of the Treasury, Putin is a war criminal. Trump's chief negotiator, Putin is trustworthy. He's not a bad guy. Secretary of State, Putin was a war criminal, I guess, but now he's not. He doesn't know. Trump says Ukraine was the aggressor. The Secretary of State says Russia was the aggressor. You, sir, the Secretary of Defense, said Russia was the aggressor. The chair of Joint Chiefs said yesterday that Putin would even stop at Ukraine. The Trump ambassador resigned because of this policy, and I think Vice President Vance said it best. He said he doesn't care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other. That is not strength. That is not using our coalition. That is not deterrence. You're wrong on all your pillars. I yield back.
First, on the question of restoring the warrior ethos, Congressman Keating argued that the fighting spirit and dedication of U.S. troops have never been lost. He emphasized that members of the armed forces continue to demonstrate courage and commitment, suggesting that political leaders should focus on other areas rather than framing the issue as a deficit of morale. This raises the point that often in policy discussions, certain narratives may be used more as talking points than as reflections of reality. For more detailed reporting on these hearings, remember to subscribe. Second, the congressman turned to border security, and specifically the U.S. government's agreement with El Salvador. He expressed alarm that the arrangement could violate American laws such as the First Step Act, the Leahy Law, and the Foreign Assistance and Transparency and Accountability Act. His concern was that U.S. funds and military equipment might be supporting practices in El Salvador that are unconstitutional or lack transparency. He warned that without proper oversight, such deals could resemble past scandals like Iran-Contra. This kind of criticism underscores the importance of financial accountability in foreign aid and national security. To follow the ongoing developments, subscribe so you don't miss our updates. Finally, Keating focused on deterrence, particularly regarding Russia, China, and the war in Ukraine. He highlighted that America's greatest strength lies in its coalition of more than 50 allied countries, a resource that neither Russia nor China possesses. He strongly criticized rhetoric labeling allies as freeloaders, pointing out that European partners have contributed more than $199 billion in support for Ukraine, even exceeding U.S. contributions. He reminded the committee that NATO allies invoked Article 5 in support of the United States after September 11, a historic demonstration of solidarity. Keating condemned mixed messages from Trump-era officials on Russia and Ukraine, calling the administration's stance chaotic rather than strong. His bottom line was that undermining alliances does not equal deterrence, but weakens U.S. global leadership. For continued analysis of America's role in global security, subscribe to the channel and stay informed. This testimony illustrates the sharp divisions in Washington over national defense and foreign relations. The issues of troop morale, border agreements, and international coalitions will remain central in the months ahead. If you value in-depth reporting on these debates, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a critical update.